Hi everyone, I'm back. I figured as long as I was going to be working, I might as well do a little live video. What the heck? Maybe your Sunday is as unfruitful as mine is. So I have a show coming up starting tomorrow night on Glass Open Market. So I thought I better finish up a little bit more inventory. And although I love making bears and have a bunch of them, I thought today I'd make just a couple of flowers. I've been inspired by all the flowers that we've had in our yard. It's kind of that way when you live in the South. In fact, a lot of them are gone and I'm just down to my irises now. So I'm making a base bead on a 3/32 mandrel. I have Dip and Go blue sludge for my bead release, which I like using for all my sculptural stuff. It just seems like it holds kind of like concrete, and I like that a lot. And I don't know about you, but I get kind of weird. Well, I'm always a little weird, but I get a little bit weird when I have a ton of stringers. I decide some days that I want to use a bunch of them up. So you can't see them right now, but right below the camera are a lot of different colored pinks and blues and aquas and green stringers that I've just, see, here's another one, that I'm just going to layer on top of each other for a base bead. And then what I'm going to do on top of it is just a simple little fantasy flower. It's not going to be a flower specifically, but just one that's got pretty colors and is spring-like. So here, this is my second stringer that I'm using up. I started with a brighter one, and this one's a little bit more muted that I added to it. And I'm making kind of like a simple barrel type shape. I'm not too concerned about it because it's going to have a lot of stuff on top of it. I just needed a base because what I do is a base bead, and then I flatten it on two sides just a little bit. And then I build off of the top of that. And then that way, if somebody's wearing it, there will be a flat section that will lay a little bit better. And also, if somebody wants to do bead embroidery, or, can you see that? Bead embroidery, or adhere it to the top of a ring or something like that, it's just a little bit more versatile. And so I've got a base bead here. It's pretty small, a little bit over, it's not 3/4 of an inch, and it's probably right about 1/2 an inch is my guess. So it's the base because it's green, and then what I need to do is add the center of the flower. And we'll make that pink just because I like pink, but a lot of my pinks here are kind of translucent. So on top of the green, I'm going to put a light layer of white so that the green doesn't show through to the pink. So that's what I'm going to do next. And I'm just covering the top. And I'm swirling it around because it's kind of fun to swirl things around. Heating it up and flattening it. And then I'll see what kind of coverage I have while I heat the back of the bead and keep it warm. As it's cooling, I'm seeing that I need a little bit more over here. I don't need perfectly covered white, but this way it just will make the pink look prettier if it happens to, if the base happens to show through. Okay, so I've got white on the bottom, and now I'm going to build the center of the flower. I'll stay with some of this pretty pink right here. See this? This is a Devardi. It's, I think they call it light rose pink or something like that. I think it's a really pretty transparent. So what I'm going to do is get a gather, and then it's going to be like a super large dot for the center of the bead. And I like to gather up a bunch of it first before I put it on there. And I have no idea what you can see or can't see. I hope I've got it going right. See how I've got a large raised dot? And that's a pretty medium shade of pink. And if I want to add more, I just add it to the top. And I'm swirling it around kind of in a circle so when it melts in it will be relatively even. if you're watching it live, if you could comment, that would be great. And then later when I'm done, I'll be able to see who was watching in real time and who wasn't. Now, see how I have this kind of raised dot right here? What I'm going to do is take my marver, and there's a nice round thing right there, and that way it kind of shapes it up pretty nicely. So I'm just placing it in that hole, and it just gives me a really nice shape. Can you see that? I'm hoping you can. And we have the center, and because I put the white under there, the green didn't show through the transparent, which makes it a really nice pink. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this center color, and this is going to be a 4-petal bead and flower, and I'm going to just do some, they're almost shaped like triangles around the edges. What I do is I go to each corner, like a rounded triangle, I don't know, a dot I guess. So there's one, and about the same amount, whoops. It dropped on a kind of dirty thing, so we'll just ignore that piece. Sometimes you just have to go to plan B right away, don't you? So I'm adding another dot here. These are going to be the bases of the petals. Adding another dot in this corner. And by having that square that I had originally, what happens is that gives it just a little bit more support. Now I'm down to just a little piece of my pink, so I'm going to get another piece of pink that's the same color and finish it off with this one. With the DeBardi, they have such large rods, and sometimes I love using the large rods, and sometimes I don't. So usually whenever I use a large rod, I'll just pull some extra pieces in the same color. So see, now we've got 4 dots around the edges, and these are going to be the bottoms of the base areas of the petals. And what I'm going to do around each of these is just add additional color. And it's still in my quest to use up stringers. Here's another one. I got lots of pinks, so I'll just kind of go randomly. And what I want to do is, seeing that most of these don't match, I want to be sure to put approximately the same amount of each color on each one. So I'm just going around the edges of each of these dots and building up a petal that way. Can you see it? Okay, and I've got enough of this stringer that I can keep going. With the pinks, you have to kind of watch it. Sometimes you get a little bit of the gray if you have too much of your propane coming through. So I'm kind of watching, and it will it will look a little bit differently. And if it does, I either need to go farther out in the flame, or I need to reduce my propane in my flame itself. So we're going to go with both. Just kind of fixing it up there. We're almost even, and I know it looks funny like this, but don't worry, in the end it will all look just fine. So another stringer out of the way. Let's get another one. Here's another pink. Now at the end, I'm going to use a little of my ink blue, which is one of my all-time favorites, and it will be on the very edge. But first I need to build up more petals, so I'm going to just keep going here and build up each petal. You can probably tell that I'm a lefty. I hope you aren't seeing just all hand and no bead as I'm working. Sometimes it seems like I'm getting a little close to the other petals with my glass, so I might sometimes build up on the bottom side because it's still bulk of the glass that I can flatten out with my mashers. And keep going. I got plenty of this glass. And what I look for, this one looks pretty big, so I'm going to want to even out these a little bit more. There we go. I kind of cleaned up my tabletop. It was really clean yesterday, and then I started looking through this box of glass that I had from a friend, and I pulled everything out and didn't put it all away. So then I decided that's when I wanted to use up my stringers. Sometimes I'm not quite as organized or do things as well as I wish I could. Here's another pink. This one looks like, it might be Creation is Messy. I'm not sure. And this one, I'm seeing that I'm getting a little bit of schmutz on the end. So what I'm doing is seeing whether I can erase any of it, but I can't, so I'm going to get rid of it. And what I do is I just heat the end, get rid of it. Okay, now we're good. So I'm going to add a little more glass. And in a little bit we'll add some ink blue, and then we'll make it start looking pretty. Isn't it funny looking there? It really looks like a mess. But I promise it'll turn out a whole lot better. Smushing makes such a difference. Okay, and then I want some of my ink blue. I like purple, and I usually am not a pink and purple person, but they do go well together on flowers. Sometimes I worry that it looks a little too much Pretty Princess style. The flowers are pink, so you know, it kind of gives you permission to go a little bit extra girly sometimes. Though I do like to make all different colored flowers. And these are just fantasy style. Okay, so we've got quite a bit of glass on there. And I want to do one more thing. I've been on a silver glass binge. I don't know whether any of you have noticed. I have some Helios here, and I'm going to add just a touch to the very edges onto the very end so that it will have a little bit of a sparkle when we're all done. So I'm just taking a touch of Helios and laying on just a little bit because it's pretty. We're going to add a little bit of it to the center also later on. Okay, so now you can see, not so perfect. That's an understatement. I have this handy dandy tool. Can you see that? I'm not sure how to show it the best. It looks kind of like a seashell, but it makes really cool petals too. So what I do is I heat the very back, and I'm going to flatten it just a touch, more than a touch, and then I'm going to heat the backs of the petals. First I'm going to heat them just to make sure they're all warm before I start working, and then when I start smushing, I'll be heating them even more. But heating the back helps you keep a little bit of control in it. And I tend to smush the petals that are the most awkward for me first. So that would be this one perhaps is one. And I take it and smush, and at that time I can move the glass around to where I want it. See how that makes it all work together? It looks so horrible at first, but you know, you can fix a lot of things with a good pressing. We'll do the same for this one. And we'll move the petals around a little bit more afterwards. But aren't those pretty colors together? So nice when you just take it, it's warm, and you readjust it to where you want it to go. If it got too close to something, I would possibly take my glass shears and cut them apart. I use my glass shears a lot. So there's a fourth petal. And I might as well just show you. If I didn't want these attached, what I do is heat from behind primarily, a little bit in the front, get it nice and warm where I want to cut, and just do a little snip. You don't have to have fancy glass shears. I mean, these are really nice ones, but you can use kitchen shears and other types of scissors. They don't have to be the fanciest ones. You just want them to be pretty sharp. So we'll snip here so you can see again. The scissors are also a good thing if sometimes you know how you get something attached to your mandrel that you don't want to have attached. Your glass shears will take care of that too. Okay, so I've got a basic shape on these, but I want to move them around a little bit more. So I'm going to take another tool. As soon as I find it, let me put my shears away. And my needle noses got put away. Oh, I should have done this before I started doing this. And here are my tweezers. I like to take my tweezers and readjust the petals a little bit, kind of twist them, turn them. So again, I start farthest away, heat it up. This is a time that you can move it over if you want, give it a little extra movement. Now I also keep some water on hand. Could you hear that sound? Because your tweezers will get kind of hot, so you want to be able to quench them before they attach permanently to your glass. And I'm just taking these and moving them around a little bit. And quenching again in between. Now I'll heat the back of this. 2 more petals, we're almost done. This is a quick demo today. I'm going to move this around a little bit. This flower and other flowers are going to be at my show that starts at 11 p.m. Eastern Time on Glass Open Market. And I have bears and other beads and fun stuff that will be available also then too. So remember, we have some of the helios around the edges of each of these flowers, but I wouldn't mind putting some around the center too, because it will add some really nice sparkle. So what I'm doing is, because I don't have a stringer prepared, I'm keeping my bead warm and just going to pull what we often call an emergency stringer. And just get a little bit of glass, and I'm waiting for it to cool, and then I'll detach it from here. And that's too much at the end, so I'm just going to pull it out a little bit more. There we go. Okay, keep the bead warm. When I heat, I want to be very deliberate in how I heat my glass. I want to know where the heat is going specifically. I want to see it heating the areas, especially the thinner areas. Okay, now this stringer is really wonky, so let's hope that I can get them in the places that I want. I usually start and put a dot in between each of the petals. Sometimes that space can look a little awkward, and by adding a dot in there, it will add a little bit of sparkle. And then I'm going to go in between those dots, and I've got enough room for 2 more. I want them to be kind of good size, because with the silver glass, if you have a little bit bigger ones, they just kind of add a little more sparkle to it. And I'm doing 2 in between each of the petals. And there we go. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is just heat up the whole bead, and then I'm going to reduce my silver glass, and we'll see what we can get out of it. I love this silver glass. I used to be scared to use it before. I would just have like a whole big pile, and I'd keep buying it, but I wouldn't use it because I was scared I was going to waste it. And then one day I decided the heck with it. Isn't that kind of pretty? So I decided to start using it, and I'm so thankful that I just kind of left off and did it, because I'm really enjoying it. Here's my reduction flame. It's just soft and small, and what I do is I let my bead cool just a tiny bit, and then I'll waft it through. And this got a pretty good amount. I kind of like that look, just like that. I'll give it one more time. I'm not sure whether you can see it there. But one more. And then I'm going to call it good. I think that's a really pretty flower, and I hope somebody adopts it. There you go. There's a flower from me. Glad you can join me. See you another time. Bye.